This is the Oakwyn Podcast, featuring Morgan Brown and Michael Yu.
Welcome to the Oakwyn Podcast. I am Morgan Brown.
Michael Yu.
And I'm the Podfather.
And we are on the Oakwyn Podcast.
Yes, we are.
Yes. And we just had some food. We're feeling jazzed.
I know, we just had some lunch.
Energy.
Yeah, it's funny because I guess as a power play, we've been podcasting all day, so we got one of our staff to order
it. Arlene's staff.
Wait a minute. Would we call her that?
Yeah. And it was missing a few items. That's okay.
We actually had enough.
Yeah.
Now that I think about it.
Yeah, we did have enough.
So maybe that was it. That was the way. Maybe she asked. Okay,
It's delicious.
Do you get a dip of energy after you have lunch though? Do you get the crash?
It's
like
the
what are
it's
the
the 2
food
o'clock.
coma?
It's the 2 o'clock time for me. It's
like is that when you take your first line or your
second line.
okay.
First one's at 9 a.m.
First one's
It's usually my
first one's to
second.
get out of bed.
It's usually
actually.
my second coffee.
Oh, okay.
That's when I get I'm like, I need a coffee kick.
Yeah.
Right. But supposedly when you take caffeine, it doesn't kick in for 45 minutes.
Is that right?
Really?
Yeah, it doesn't.
I feel
it takes longer.
I feel instantly like
Do you?
Yeah, me
I feel
too.
like as it's like approaching my lips, I'm already feeling awake.
Yeah. It's definitely psychological.
Yeah. Do you have a coffee every morning?
I do.
Yeah. Do you?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know what I'm like without coffee. Actually,
You have it every morning too.
I have it every morning. Like
and you really fiend I don't feel like your eyes really open until your coffee.
Yeah,
with Mike, he's kind of like I'm like, you need a coffee.
yeah.
I'm grumpy until I get my first coffee.
You're like
It's kind
Sean.
of like, don't talk to me. Just let me brew the coffee. Talk to me in 20 minutes or so.
Yeah.
You're exactly like Sean. I don't even talk to him, and I just do it all, and then I just give him the coffee, and then he wakes up, and then he lightens up. But he normally nasty in the morning.
That's nice of you to give him his space. My wife nattering, asking me questions, just like, how about this? How about this? You want to go on camping vacation? I'm like, 20 minutes. Just talk to me in 20.
Right.
I think coffee is it's also do you just have black coffee?
Yeah. So like I just drink black. You
I like a sugar and a cream.
like a sugar?
Oh,
and
you're
cream?
a sugar
Yeah.
and a cream. I'm
Oh,
just
yeah.
I'm just a cream person.
Yeah.
No sugar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I used to go to Tim Hortons and have 4 cream, 4 sugar, and like a drip of coffee.
Even when I met you, you were still heavy on the sugar.
Yeah, and then I've just
Yeah.
weaned off of it, just slowly, and then now I'm
Well, I feel like if you're,
the
Pure
man in
raw.
black.
I feel like if you're drinking Tim Hortons, you need something to take the edge off of that
Bitter.
floor sweeping coffee, right?
So like I got into coffee from like being a realtor. I
Yes.
never drank coffee during school. Never drank coffee
Same.
in my first job, like my first few jobs and stuff like that out of school. But it was just free available at the office. I was used to like shitty office coffee.
Yeah.
And but now I drink the local stuff.
What did you start with? Did you have a latte, or were you just
I used to go to Tim Hortons
Okay.
and I'd have half French vanilla.
Are you kidding me?
No, half French vanilla and half coffee, or something along those lines. Like a French vanilla.
French vanilla.
Yeah.
Yeah, sugar.
Flavoring, sugar.
That's how you get into it.
Yeah, I used to do that when I was like 17. That's
Yeah.
what I did. Yeah.
Mine was caramel macchiato from Starbucks, which is just heavy caramel. It's just caramel and coffee. It's so good.
what is macchiato?
It's like a light, it's like a latte, but just a lot of caramel,
Yeah.
pump of caramel. And then I just slowly got into the normal latte. And then then I went to Europe and I went black.
Mm-hmm.
And then now I still think that our Canadian beans are a little bitter. So I still feel like I need to have some cream in it at all. That's just my own stomach, I think, though.
it's weird now, kind of because we used to take people out for coffee, and that was kind of like a primary way of meeting people. Hey, let's go for a coffee. Let's go for a coffee.
Yeah.
Now we're most coffee shops don't have seating and stuff like that.
It's so awkward.
Yeah, so it's kind of how do you, now we got to find a different thing to do. So have you figured out something different to do other
That's
than
a
the
good
coffee?
question.
Yeah, what do you do? Do you tell them I'm going to brew my coffee at 2 p.m.
Yeah.
and you're going to brew it too, and we
Yeah.
meet at 2:30 on Zoom?
Well, while you're thinking about it, I have been going on walks with people. I've been doing a lot of walks.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
That's a lot of walking and talking.
And I've been I'll just pick a random street because it's outside as
Nice.
well. I've been going on, going on early morning walks with people that I'm just, hanging out with. And you know what? People actually, I think they really enjoy it. I think they enjoy it more than the coffees, actually.
I don't know. Coffee is just the best, though. I mean, I had a couple people stop by our office just to drop coffee off, and they drop a whole bottle of Bailey's.
Yes.
Like Casey dropped off, like he had St. Pat's, and it was like a thing of Bailey's, and everyone came out and had shots of Bailey's and coffee. So I'm starting to see that curve come back in, where agents are coming back into the office.
Yeah.
They're still saying like super safe distance, but they are still wanting that interaction now. Do you find that?
Yeah, for sure. Like, when COVID first happened, like it was like
Deado.
It was whisper quiet at the offices, but now it's starting to ramp up again. But everyone's everyone's following the rules, like, 6 feet apart, wearing masks in common areas and stuff like that. So yeah,
I think it's a big thing. But yeah, coffee, I do feel like I've been really into oat lattes lately. It's the latest and greatest.
Really?
Yeah.
More than
oat.
milk?
Yeah.
That's like, isn't that blasphemy?
Okay, first of all, is that is oats, like, are they healthier than is it healthier than dairy milk?
Oh,
is that why?
Yeah, I think no, that's not. It's pretty much anything's healthier than dairy milk, but it's the idea of it's the best type of milk for the environment, right? Like, people were on the almond milk for so long.
Yes.
Almond milks are wrecking. Like, there's so much water. It's like I don't know how many liters of water goes into making one almond.
Yeah.
And what else is there? There's soy milk, but that's destroying the rainforest. So oat milk is like the one ethical type of milk that's left, basically.
It's so smooth. It is like oat milk is like, it's like butter. It's like, it's amazing. It's next level.
Yeah, if you get the barista stuff, it works in the coffee. Great, right?
Oh,
it does
so
it mix
good.
well?
Yeah. Oh my God.
The barista stuff does. If you get normal oat milk, it just looks like
Kind of
chunks in your
curdle.
coffee.
Oh,
It
okay.
looks like curdle. Yeah,
But I'm telling everyone, go and try an oat latte. It is beyond. You'll never go back. It's so good.
Whenever I think of I eat oatmeal occasionally. Whenever I think about oats, I think about feeding horses.
Really? Why? You don't feed horses oats.
Yeah, you do.
It's hay.
No, you feed them oats, right?
I lived next to a horse farm for like all my life. I don't think I've ever seen them. That's pigs.
Horses eat oats as well.
What?
Yeah,
You give them a big old bucket of oats.
Yeah, and then you put a thing on them, and then they eat the oats. And they love
That's
it.
like a treat.
The chomper.
Yeah.
Those are the chomper treats. They're treats, though.
Treats, yeah.
They're not. They're not.
Yeah, we know our horses.
Yeah. That is something that I love doing. Like I've gone horse riding a few times.
Mm-hmm.
If you haven't gone horse riding, people,
Where do you go, Mike?
I went to Pemberton to go horse riding once. Like I did like a team trip.
That was really a good thing for your team.
Oh yeah, so we went out to Pemberton. We stayed one night overnight, and then we basically went out on horseback. We crossed like these like babbling brooks and stuff like that, going through the forest. It was awesome.
Okay, so did you do that after you failed at something?
Great segue, Morgan. No, that's actually after we succeeded in something, because we had like this thing where we set up a reward system if we hit our goals for the quarter. And
do an experience.
Yeah.
Well, some people need that when they are failing at something. And that's what we're going to be talking about today, which is how do you deal with failure and rejection? And this is a big one, right?
Right.
A big one in our business.
Yeah. A lot of agents, when they get into the business of real estate, they they assume that it's kind of like TV and HGTV. They're going to get slam dunk. They're going to buy low, sell high, do the whole meet the clients off the street and everything. Everyone says yes to them, but it is a failure business. I think our mutual friend, a good friend of ours, Graydon Douglas, who's at the office, he said we get paid for our no's. We get paid for everyone that says no to us, not the yeses. Mm-hmm. So, there's a lot of failure in the business.
Yes, I think so too. So we're going to dive right into that. How do you deal with failure? What do you do when you get rejected? And let's start it there.
Yeah, and that's coming up next.
Thanks, guys, for listening. If you are interested in our brokerage at Oakwyn Realty, feel free to go to oakwyn.com/join/join. Did I say that?
Oakwyn.com/join.
And
and type into the message box pod 2021.
What do you get?
And we will give you a free piece of mystery swag when you meet one of our fine leaders there.
Thanks so much for listening. Okay, welcome back, everyone. We're diving into failure. This is a tough one.
It is a very tough one. Yeah.
I feel like a lot of agents get discouraged very quickly. And this is why we're going to be talking about today. How do you deal with failure? How do you deal with rejection?
Right.
What is your failure?
Okay.
What should be like?
I think right off the top, I have to say that every successful person in the world has probably failed more than they succeeded.
Yes.
Like I would say, they've tried things, they've experimented with things that didn't work out, and they kept at it, and then there's kind of this breakthrough. So we thought we'd share a little bit about our kind of big failures. What was a big?
What is your big failure? I want to know your big failures.
Well, I could, I have to. So when I first started in real estate, I didn't sell anything. I've shared it before. I didn't sell anything for the first 6 months.
Yeah,
I started fairly broke, and then I was really broke after that first 6 months. And, I really, I was spending all my time and energy to be a full-time agent too. Like I didn't have any other income. I was really, it was really, really challenging. I was just kind of every day I was calling everyone I knew, and I was going door knocking and cold calling and, going on Craigslist, for sale by owners. I was trying to do anything I could to stimulate business, and like nothing was working. And I was reading so many books about what to do, and that stuff wasn't working. And I just so it was 6 months of failure. I heard many, many no's. My first listing presentation I ever took, I think I shared it before. At the end of their listing presentation, they told me to stop being a realtor. They told me to you should work for this guy. We're gonna hire this guy. Like it was, and so like basically I called that agent. I said, what did you do to convince the lady to hire you? And then he told me that, it's experience and all this rest of this stuff. But ultimately it was because he was confident.
Yes.
And so until I learned really how to build up my confidence and have the right mind frame, and really, and I took it really hard when people said no to me when I first got started. So that was, lots of learning lessons along the way. But gladly, I learned my lesson, and here we are today.
Every failure is an opportunity to grow, right? I think everyone needs to know that you should that's how I deal with it, is that even to this day, if something is not, and one of my biggest failures I think that I can share is later on in my career when I was not giving my clients the best service and I was losing them because I was so overstretched. I didn't have enough people working with me.
Right.
And
I got on too much.
I got taken on too much. And I had a couple of my very good clients that are still to me today. And I just sold her mom's place, which is very funny. And she just said, Morgan, this is just unacceptable. Like, I love you, but I can get this better service and pay the exact same amount. And I think you're just overdoing it. And I had that happen once, and I had another very good client who's still with me as well, telling me my assistant wasn't well trained and everything. And I felt that was a bigger failure to me, losing very important people in my business, in my career. And I realized, okay, thankfully they told me, and I took it as a great opportunity. And to this day, I actually just told her, I said, thank you for sharing those notes with me, and thank you for sharing those feedback. But what I could have done is oh yeah, you know what, you're going to be upset about it. I'm not going to listen to you. I'm not going to listen to your feedback. But instead I took that failure and I said, what am I actually doing wrong? How can I change that? Yeah. And how can I and actually give thanks to this whole process, right? So that was one of my biggest failures, is just bad service, because I didn't scale.
How about all your terrible relationship problems too, Morgan?
Major relationship problems, guys.
Yeah, you haven't. I thought
terrible burning of the bridge.
I'm kidding.
But the failures is that, and I think people, when you're dealing with, some people think, Mike, that failure is not getting that listing, right?
Yeah.
Some people think not getting that call back. Some people get into multiple situations and they fail for the clients. So there's different failure pockets.
Right, and there's. There were many a time where I thought about quitting. Did you ever have a thought? No.
I never thought about quitting. I was like, I have no way out of this business.
I had that.
Mike, I'm different.
Yeah, I was just am I not suited for this? Is this not right for me? like at the time it didn't feel right too. I was like so awkward. I was just like feeling so lost. And
What got you through it?
I think for me, I thought it was the most likely path for me to be able to take care of my family. So it was the most. So if I didn't have that real clear reason why, I know I would have quit.
Wow.
So like if the set of circumstances around me wasn't such that I like had to like try to make it work.
Yes.
Because I thought of all these other options of like what else I could do, what else I could potentially, maybe this isn't the right industry, maybe I can sell, but doing something else. But so I thought about all those different things, but ultimately that like, it was the most clear plan for me. It was the most clear thing. So, and fortunately enough, pulled through and here we are today, but we thought about, sharing some different tips and tools and techniques for if you're in that position where you feel like you're failing over and over again, is with a buyer, for example, you got fired from like, I know a lot of buyers agents are getting fired right now, right?
I will say this for top producing agents. Yeah. Like I've been getting calls like, oh yeah, this guy totally used all my information and then I got fired. He didn't like me anymore. I'm like, what, you?
Yeah. So
you're a superstar.
We're hearing these stories. So some of our top agents, because buyers are getting fatigued and they're
getting frustrated,
they're blaming the agent and stuff like that, and they're firing their agents. And like, it's funny. I've had a couple top agents say that they just got fired and like, I don't know if I'm a good realtor or not anymore. And I was like, you're a top producer. You have been for 10 years. I think you'll be okay. But I think even everybody deals with failure in their
career. And I think it's ongoing. And that's like one thing people have to get in your head. This is a business. Someone told me a long time ago, there's only 2 businesses that you get rejected as much as real estate in your career. And one is real estate and the second is an actor. Oh, yeah. So it's like you go into a pitch or whatever it is, or you go in for an audition. It's the same thing. It's the same feeling.
Have you ever wanted to be an actor?
Yeah, like when I was really young, but I never was like super wanting to pursue it. I don't like judgy likeness. Like how it, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I think you would thrive.
Yeah.
I feel like you're just good. It's just annoying.
You're a drama kid.
I was a drama kid.
Yeah.
But then I never, to be honest, I didn't have the confidence. You guys know, Mike knows that. I'm like, I've talked about it. Like I was like, I don't know if I can do it. I can't memorize.
That was it for me. Yeah. I thought about it at one point and I was like, I can't even I was a singer and I couldn't even remember like the lines of songs that I'd written. And I was like, there's no way I could ever be an actor.
But I think a lot of the good actors, like especially Tom Cruise, his memory is he just makes up a lot of his lines. Yeah. Or I'm sure there's probably little ways of memorizing.
Yeah, probably. You develop
these skills, like skills.
Right? Yeah. I thought about it myself for a little while and then I looked in the mirror and I was like, this ain't happening.
But Mike wanted to be a comedian.
I love stand-up comedy, and I love I like humor. I like laughing. So yeah, I actually did a stand-up show.
Yeah,
right?
I was there. It was so good.
Yeah,
and it was very funny, but
I would pay money for that
video. It's not recorded,
but all of his
that know of.
Yeah, it was just it was cool because you just what's cool is you could have been like, okay, I might not be good at this, but he ended up taking night classes.
Yeah.
And just going up on and so it was Yak Yaks. He did a stand up on Yak Yaks.
Cool. Shout out to the Langara Continuing Education Program. So we used to get these flyers when I was a kid from Langara Adult Education, and I've actually taken at least half a dozen courses there. Yeah.
It's great. It's
and I did creative writing, I did stand-up comedy, I did improv, I did acting classes, and I took a bunch of different things.
And I think that you could have looked at that and been like, I'm going to fail at all of these things.
Oh, I suck.
But you still did it because you really have, you were just like, this could be a challenge. Let's just do it.
Yeah, it was a great, it's a great experience. And I feel I think as you, become an entrepreneur, you actually almost kind of like failure.
You do.
You kind of it's a weird kind of weird
you need it.
Adrenaline thing at this point now. So
I think so let's start with what you do when you have these.
Yeah. So when you're faced with failure and you failed, and
what's number one? You need to embrace your emotions.
Yeah.
Embrace them.
Mm-hmm.
What does that mean? Embrace your
Basically,
emotions.
we have to understand that we're human beings, and that when faced with failure, you're gonna get a little bit down on yourself, and you're gonna feel a little sad. You're gonna feel unworthy. You're gonna feel like a lot of different emotions, and so just embracing those and being okay with feeling those things, because a lot of people have those feelings and then they avoid it completely. They bury it deep inside of them, and then they
they eventually blow up.
Yeah, they blow up. Yeah.
And they have, it's funny. I was looking through some photos of, like we talk about where everyone knows I'm a Sunshine Coast person, but basically it was like 2011, and Sean and I were looking at all these photos of when I was looking at like the geographical, when you go on the geographical pin of all the locations, and I was like looking 2011, and I was with my husband. I didn't have kids at the time, and I was like, "Oh, remember this trip?" And he goes, "Oh yeah, I remember that trip. You had a lot of those in your career." And I was like, what does that mean? And he goes, "You were just like you were stressed, and you were like facing failure like at that time."
Mm-hmm.
And I said, "Whoa!" Like my significant other, I wasn't even married to him at that time. And he was like, "Yeah, you had a couple of those big monumental moments that you needed to just go in and take those emotions in."
Yeah.
And so we would go out, and I'd go away for a couple days and really embrace those emotions that I was having. And most of the pictures was me sleeping. I just slept.
Well,
But you could tell what was
in my face.
Yeah, what was
I was
kind of
like
the worry that was behind it.
and I think that I was very lucky. I learned that really early, that I had to embrace that failure and know that life continued.
Yeah. He actually told me that he only married you because he became rich. And if you didn't, he'd be gone. And when you fail, he's out.
He's out of there. He's out of there. Yeah. It's amazing though. Like I'm lucky I had him during that time. Holy crap. But anyways, so embracing
your emotions. And I think, that's, we joke around a lot, but not to avoid them, to really like embrace them and be okay with them and accept that we're
reflect.
human. Yeah, and
reflect on
them.
them.
And that's kind of the
next one.
Yeah.
Which is accept the responsibility.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Okay, so that is a big one.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of realtors out there that we know.
Yeah.
And that just kind of avoid that they did something. And they say, "Oh, well," and they blame everyone else. But you need to look at really the whole situation as a larger piece and see it from other people's point of views, and see where you can kind of like improve on those places and accept that happened to you.
Right. So obviously when you fail, when you fail, you're a big part of the reason why you failed, right? And you have to accept responsibility for your part in it.
Yes.
So, if you if you were too passive, or if you
too directive sometimes.
Yeah, if you're too
emotional.
directive, if you didn't listen well enough, if you didn't prepare, there are so many there's so many things that you can kind of pick up on, but you need to accept the responsibility for your role in the failure, right? And that's
the sooner you do that, the faster you overcome it.
Yeah. And I feel like, just personal responsibility as a whole, I think everyone should take personal responsibility for their part in anything that happens, good or bad.
When has that happened to you recently? Have you ever taken full responsibility? Mike never takes full responsibility.
I feel like I take responsibility very well.
Do you? When was the last time you did that?
Well, in many cases, off the top of my head, I take responsibility for, like, when anything goes wrong, I look at my part. I'm like, well, I think
you're quick to be like, it's my fault.
I say that a lot. I say in our private conversations.
This is not your fault.
For example, we just this is a bill. Yeah. So Morgan and I, we invest together.
Yeah.
And basically, I had this crazy idea that if we waited a longer term period of time, then interest rates would potentially fall. They rose, and it's costing us a lot more than what we thought it was going to. And I took full responsibility. I said, I made a big mistake, guys. I'm so sorry. This is what I did wrong.
And I was like, get over it. Let's figure this out.
Yeah. And I was just like, I was just in the doldrums, and Morgan's like, whatever, get out of it. We need you to get out
Stupid.
there.
Like, get out of there.
Make more money for us. Go. I'm like, okay.
I was like, this is actually, I'm going to use this to my advantage. This is the heat.
Yeah.
No, and you're right. It's taking full responsibility for it. I just, for myself, I took full responsibility for a client. They said, you didn't call us, a couple times when I thought you said you were going to. And it's such a small thing, but just saying, you know what? You deserve better than that. Let me rectify this. I'm happy we had those conversations. I apologize for if you feel the service was off, and let's move forward. And
I thought
think that
sorry was
good.
the only word Morgan Brown doesn't use.
I'm a sorry all the time. I'm Canadian, eh? I'm Canadian.
You gotta say sorry.
Yeah.
You gotta say sorry. I gotta say sorry. Do you say sorry a lot, Brayden?
So much. Actually, no, it's sorry. Sorry is the American way.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Sorry.
Oh,
Sorry. Sorry. I think we all say sorry actually a lot.
Yeah.
And my client told me that she's from the States, and she's like, you guys say sorry so much. And it's like you're walking down the street and you're just like going past somebody and you say sorry.
Yeah.
But you're not even in the way.
You think about it, when our buses are out of service, they say sorry, not in service. Like I had an American point that out to me. They were like, oh my God, this place is insane.
That's so funny.
Maybe it's just because like
Should we never say sorry?
no, you should say sorry
Yeah.
when you made a mistake. You should say sorry. I don't think you should say sorry when you're bumping it. Like,
But people, I think that's just like
during
our way.
accidental things, I don't think you should say sorry.
Yeah.
If it's a complete accident, like you actually no.
It's hard not to.
No, you do. You
Yeah.
do.
But even when you open the door at like Starbucks,
Yeah.
and an old woman comes out, you're like, "Oh, sorry." Let
You
me
don't
just get
say
out of the
beat it,
way."
old lady. This is for the young.
That's the biggest difference of us in the States. The States does not even like acknowledge you. But I think it's our acknowledgement. That's what sorry has become in Canadian standard.
Yeah.
It's acknowledging you're there. We just say sorry. It's terrible.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's move on. So accepting responsibility
Sorry
is
about
one.
that, guys.
And,
Sorry for us rambling, guys.
and the third is ask yourself, what have you learned from this?
This is key. Okay, so once you've embraced your emotions, you've accepted responsibility. At that point, you can look at things objectively because you can look at things logically and like, what have you learned from this failure? What are you taking away from it, and how are you going to conduct yourselves in the future
Moving forward. Yeah. And I think that's a big one too. Taking full responsibility and then saying, okay, well, what have I learned from this whole process, and what can I do better? I think that's always like the number one thing. That's how you grow.
Yeah, I think it's always, I Morgan just like smashing herself in the face with the mic. Yeah.
Is it Friday afternoon,
Yeah,
guys?
it's Friday afternoon, everyone.
I mean, it's Tuesday.
Yeah. Exactly. We're doing this live on what month is it?
sometime in June.
Yeah. Right. It's sunny out. Woo.
I'm still pregnant.
Morgan's gonna have her baby by now.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, the future. This is the
future.
future self. The future
Yeah.
self. Yeah. So I always think it boils down to your behavior. I think you can always pinpoint things to like action, behavior. In a lot of ways, that's what I try to take away in most cases. And a lot of times it's confidence, or it's the people you're surrounding yourself with. I think you want to take the lesson you can from a certain circumstance. So what's a failure that you've learned from, Morgan?
There's so many failures. I think that's the only time I grow. I really fail. I just fail really hard. What was my, I think one thing that we do really well at Oakwyn is we reflect, like what we said is reflect on asking yourself, like, what have we done and everything like that. So I think just as being a better leader was like a big one, but growing your own company, like being an entrepreneur, which is the thing. But as a realtor, what I've learned is that it's not about, especially growing and scaling your team, you never want to throw anyone under the bus. And I think that's like a big thing is when one of your team members fails or does something stupid, I take full responsibility.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, if
Did you ever throw someone under the bus before?
No, but I think before I would be like just trying to cover it up and like make it whatever. Now I'm like, okay, if someone messes something up, I just am like, you know what? That was a really bad part on on the whole team. But I'm taking full responsibility. That's in my radar. And I think that's a great way of doing it. Being a leader, I guess. What about you?
You know, I think I can talk like, in one of my previous relationships, because I'm like
relationship time.
Because I tend to be like a bit of a people pleaser. So like, you know, I like to, and you know, I like to make people comfortable. It's like, I like serving people, but I think when you're a people pleasing personality, you can kind of take that a bit too far. And then you're kind of like, do I even really like this person? Like, do I even like what I'm doing, or am I just doing it to please others? And just being kind of honest. So just, you know, learning to be honest with yourself, and stuff like that. And so like, you know, just there's all these different ways. So when you fail at, whether it's in work or in relationships, family, stuff like that. Yeah.
Failure is a big word. I mean, like there can be some glitches and stuff. Do you listen to yourself or do you listen to people more? Like when you're failing, like, you know what I mean? Like someone might be like, oh, I'm going to give you some criticism.
Yeah. So it just depends. Some people, it depends on how you process, right? So like some people process well in conversations with people they trust. They reflect well externally. I like to write and kind of brainstorm different ideas and think about it that way. You're like, okay. Yeah.
I'm just like stretching my leg. He's so annoying.
Any little thing.
He's like, we're like all like, don't bug Michael. He's going to just get distracted by one movement.
That's my reptile brain.
But that goes into what you're saying, which is really the next step, which is create a plan to move forward.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Right. And so you need to take a step back after you've kind of embraced the emotion and really just accepted that responsibility yourself. Then you're going to reflect and just really ask yourself, what have I learned from this? But the next part of that is, now that we've learned a lot from this whole process, what can I do better and how can I create a plan?
Yeah. So, you know, how would you, with presented the same opportunity or presented the same circumstance, how would you act differently? Like what would you do differently? Because you're going to get that same opportunity again. And if you obviously do the same things that you did that led you to the result the last time, then you would see the same result. But if you do things a bit differently, then potentially there could be a different outcome, which would be potentially the opposite of failure, which is success.
Which is great.
Yeah.
Brandon, do you have a failure you want to share?
Failure.
Personal failure. Anything that you've overcome? That's a tough one, isn't it?
That is a tough one. Deep. Well, you guys know, but maybe the listeners don't. I was actually in real estate for a while, right? And I was always kind of 1 foot in real estate and 1 foot in audio stuff, music production and stuff like that. And I had my best year ever in like 2018 in real estate, but I was the most miserable I'd ever been, right?
Wow.
And so I never saw so I kind of saw, but I always thought that if I quit real estate, it would be a failure. And I still thought of it that way, even when I did quit. But then I was so much happier that and I never would have gotten this opportunity. Like this year, I kind of started this business in 2017, but then this became my full-time thing in like just 2020. Even this year. At the end of last year. And it just, I never would have gotten that opportunity if I didn't. I mean, who knows? Maybe I could have, persevered forward and been unhappy in real estate. But that was definitely a failure that turned into a huge opportunity I never, ever would have thought happened.
Wow. Yeah. That's so cool.
Yeah.
My mentor told me, it's not what you say no, it's not what you say yes to, it's what you say no to.
Yeah.
And so that's it's really about taking a second and reflecting and saying, how much is my time going to be? Is it like, other than cost benefit, how happy are you going to be? Are you going to be like utilizing your time properly? Yeah. Is this opportunity going to come again? Are there better opportunities that might come? You don't have to jump on everything. And that's what I think just in our generation, people like present a lot to you, like as a general, or even just in your life. it's not about what you say yes to all the time. It's really about what you say no to and what you want to, and that starts with a plan, right? Plan of action.
Yeah, for sure. Creating that right plan of action. And finally,
Yes.
it's to really face like your fear of failure. And I think a lot of people, you know, they fail a few times and then they're really hesitant to put themselves in that same situation again to, you know, to potentially fail again. So, you know, we have to really, you know, try to take something away from it and but still given the same opportunity, still try to jump back on that horse, even if we've been kicked off 10 or 11 times. Yeah.
It's kind of funny. Like we did have a conversation with Jay McInnes in our last one of our podcasts, and he talked about just you know, walking up to going to the neighbor's door and ask him, hey, like, and this was like in a $4 million price bracket. And people are like really afraid to take those leaps because they're afraid of rejection. But I think what you have, the faster you get over the kind of fear to fail, the faster you get those opportunities, right? So definitely face the fear of your failure right away.
Yeah. So even if you failed, you've been put in a circumstance and you failed, you should still know that, you know, potentially it's the right thing to do that again and face it again and do things a little bit differently and hopefully slay the giant, right? Which is a pretty, like, you know, what's really great about real estate and what's really great about being entrepreneurs, you get lots of opportunities and lots of different things are going to come your way. But if you have that fearful mindset or you don't want to go into that situation, the reward won't be there.
No, you're right.
So that's a big thing. Something on a, you know, it is an interesting story. Actually, maybe about 10 or 11 years ago when I pretty new 1 or 2 years in the business, I actually had a partner in real estate, and basically it went so badly. And so, you know, it was a big failure actually. Like I
rebranded.
Yeah, we rebranded everything. We we had a partnership with Arlene and I had a partnership with someone else, with another person, and it really, really didn't work out well. And it really kind of set us back a little bit. And so, you know, I was really hesitant to like have another partner. And then, you know, when I met Morgan and, you know, I was like, okay, this is definitely someone that we recognized was very intelligent, had special ability, and we really enjoyed working with them. But there was that hesitance though, of like, we already failed with a partner before. Maybe we'll fail again. And Arlene and I had lots of conversations about that. And so
I didn't hear that.
Yeah. And so we took a lot of obviously took a lot of time, which is something we didn't do previously when we jumped into a partnership. We took a lot of I spent a lot of time with Morgan. I got to know her really well.
I came
to her wedding. We hung out. I met Sean. Sean really sold me. No, I'm kidding.
Fine. No, he's better than me. Everyone knows it.
We just had and Morgan and I got to know her really well. And then, you know, I didn't communicate very effectively in my previous partnership of what kind of our expectations were, our thoughts, our needs, or like our goals didn't align. And so there was a lot of this conversations that we had, and then we were like, okay, and obviously Morgan and I and Arlene's partnership has been, I would say, a really huge success.
Slam dunk, people.
Yeah, that's why we're on the Oakwyn podcast. And I know
Oakwynning.
Yeah. Yeah. And I know that if we didn't face that fear of failure, if we didn't go through that previous failure, maybe we wouldn't be as mature in running a partnership together, right? So
yes, you're right. It is one of those, that is so true. The whole facing the facts, making a plan, that's a super big one. But it's also just taking a leap again. Don't be afraid to fail. Yeah. I have so many agents that call me and they're like, I didn't get this listing presentation.
Yeah.
And I said, how does it make you feel? And they're like, well, you know, it just made me feel rejected. I didn't really want to, didn't want to like put myself out again. And I said, well, okay, how many times have you gone up and you failed? And some of them will say to me like, I didn't get the listing presentation 2 or 3 times. And some of them are like, I didn't get one and now I'm focusing on buyers. They flipped. And I'm like, that's not how you grow. You have to jump back in there. And the way that I tell everybody, especially with listing presentations or buyers presentations, is don't take it personal. It is completely not a reflection of you as an individual. It is just regarding service and comfortability. So don't, like, if that person might just have warmed up to another individual way faster.
And, then think of what things you can do to, like, to be able to build a stronger trust with people. Like,
ask them why.
Ask them why. Like, are you not, most people are really nice. They're not going to tell you specifically why, but then you'll actually be able to. You
don't think they tell you the truth? I think I always ask them and they always tell me, because I sometimes feel.
What do they tell you? What's the most common thing?
The most common thing is that it was a referral from right now is it was a referral and it was a family or something like that.
A lot of people say I just don't like your look. Like, you sounded good, but like there's something a little off about you.
Yeah, that's like the number one. But I think a lot of people get experience. Like a lot of people are like, oh yeah, like we thought we wanted to go with a area specialist. That's what a lot of agents have told me that their response is back at. Yeah. So I'm like, okay, so how can you better prepare for the next one in that area?
Well, you got to so like when I hear that, the deeper reason is you're like, maybe you haven't demonstrated your value, right?
Good.
So like,
yes.
That's what I would try to learn from it. It's not like, oh, what do I have to do to get this? Because there's a mental block that a lot of people have, specifically when they get started in the business, that they don't have the experience, or why would anyone list with them? They're so young or whatever. But that's a big mental block, and you have to overcome it, because some people, like you and I started very young. They want to give a young person a chance.
They really do.
I've had that I've had so many people in my early stages of my career were like, you were just like me when I first started.
What? Who says that to you?
Yeah, like a lot of my clients were like, your energy, your desperation is just like mine when I first started in my catering business, and now like we're catering all these places, and so you remind me of myself, and I'm like, I am desperate. And so they're like, I can't believe we're hiring you, but we're hiring you.
We're hiring you now. That's so interesting.
So like, so basically you got to understand your value and what you're bringing to the table.
And that's it, guys. So let's do some 5 takeaways that we want, or I guess it'd be 5 takeaways. So what are the 5 takeaways from this? What do we do with our failures?
Yeah. So key takeaway number 1. So to embrace your emotions.
2, accept the responsibility.
3, ask yourself what you can learn from this.
4, create a plan to move forward.
And number 5, keep facing those fears, guys. Go out there and start killing. Just keep killing it. And on that note, guys, thanks so much for listening to the Oakwyn podcast. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please rate it 5 out of 5 on whichever podcast platform you're listening to it on. And if you're interested in Oakwyn, if you're interested in being an Oakwynite, go to oakwyn.com/join. Type into the message box
pod 2021 and you will get
a free piece of mystery swag.
Thanks very much, everyone.
Okay, bye. Have a good day.